Welcome to Benevolence, where kindness matters and all are welcome to the table. I'm your host, Ceci Diaz. As always, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for supporting Benevolence Podcast. I pray that as you tune in every week, you are empowered, blessed, and encouraged to be the best version of yourself. You are tuning into episode 9, Surviving COVID-19. This particular episode is very different from the other 8 episodes from this season. As I was finalizing the plans for who to invite as a guest, we got the bad news that 2 of our dear cousins from New York caught COVID-19. As a family, we prayed for their healing and for God to protect our families who live in the New York and Philadelphia area. After a few weeks, we reached out to one of our cousins who was affected and asked her to share her experiences with us. COVID-19 is something that affects us every day, our way of daily living, our mindset, our future. But when a family member or friend gets sick, it truly changes your perspective. When what we watch on the news hits home, it brings another wave of uncertainty that only God can control. So without further ado, my beautiful cousin, Sara, aka Mama Agosto, is joining me at the table today. She is a wife, mother, and servant of the Lord. She lives in Jamaica, Queens, New York. Basically, the heart of this whole pandemic in the United States. This conversation was recorded digitally due to our season of social distancing. Hope this episode gives you some sort of insight of the reality of COVID-19. So let's get started.
You got it.
Get down to the nitty gritty. I got these questions offline. Because, I'll be honest to say, this is new for all of us. This is new for you. What do we ask a COVID survivor? You know what I mean? So I'm like, I have to do my research. So, starting with the first question, where do you suspect you contracted COVID-19?
I honestly believe I contracted it from a coworker. She had been, this was early March, like late February, early March. She had been coming into the office coughing and we would say, what are you doing? You okay? Her voice was off and at first she's like, I have laryngitis. And then a week later, she was still with the same thing and she's still coming into work. So I'm looking at her and I'm like, did you go check that out? It's a bad cough. And she's like, I have bronchitis. So I said, okay. So she took a few days off and then she comes back to work. I would say like two days later, she comes back to work and she looks okay, but you can tell she's not 100%. Yeah. But she's still walking around. No one's really making, like, we've heard about the coronavirus, but no one was really making a big deal about it at that point, So she goes home. We go home for the day. The next day, I walk into the office. I felt horrible. I wasn't even going to come into the office, but I felt like fatigue. My body was hurting. It was crazy. And then I said, you know what? I said, I'm tired. I said, let me get this done for my boss and I'm going to head back. And sure enough, my boss looked at me. He goes, you know what? Take the day off. So that's when I first got sick. As soon as she got better, I ended up getting sick a few days later.
So that's crazy. What month was this? Because I know everything kind of exploded around February. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
this was the beginning of March.
Wow.
This was the beginning of March. I would say the first week of March.
Okay. And where are you located? So we kind of know, like, more or less where.
In Ridgewood, Queens.
Okay.
And Queens is the epicenter of what's going on right now.
Wow. And I guess, so my question is, like, were you taking any precautions prior to that? Or
no.
Kind of just doing the norm until further notice?
That I wasn't taking any precautions. I wasn't washing my hands. I wasn't seeing where I placed my hands, things, I was just going about my regular routine, going to work and that's it. I get in my little desk and I'm in my zone. Wow. And that's it.
So there was a lot of lack of information and resources, like, at the very beginning. So what was your experience in your interaction with your doctor?
So as soon as I went to work and I felt sick, they sent me home. I honestly went into work for about an hour, and I looked at my boss and I said, I don't feel good. I'm just going to leave. And he's like, yeah, go home, feel better. That was Tuesday. By Thursday, um, I started to take antibiotics because my throat was hurting. So I thought it was a throat infection.
Yeah.
So on that was Tuesday, I took an antibiotic, and then I was taking some ibuprofen and things like that. And then Thursday, I said, you know what? The throat infection hasn't gone away. I just didn't feel myself. I was like, something's wrong. So I went to urgent care.
Okay.
So I go to urgent care. The first thing they asked me was, were you around anyone that has been exposed to the coronavirus? And I'm like, no, I haven't. Because at this point, we didn't know.
Yeah.
So he goes, okay. So he didn't treat me with a mask or anything, any precautions. He took me into a room. He checked my breathing. He checked my fever, my coughing. And then he says, your breathing is a bit off. He was like, let's do a chest. Because I was like as if I had asthma. And I've never had asthma in my life. And I was like kind of like with the deep breaths. And if I coughed, I was completely out of breath. My breath was gone. So I said, he's like, let me just make sure. He goes, I think you might have a pneumonia. So he went, he took me to the back. He did a chest x-ray. And when they did the chest x-ray, they tell you to hold your breath. Mm-hmm. So as I held my breath, immediately I almost fainted. The lady comes, brings me a chair. She's like, oh my gosh, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm just like weak. I felt so weak. I was just like, I'm just weak. And she goes, well, your lungs came back clear. It's not a pneumonia. You definitely have the flu came back negative, and the throat infection came back negative. So it has to be bronchitis. I said, okay. So he put me on the Z-Pack, and he gave me an inhaler for the breathing. And then he sent me home.
And throughout that time, you never thought it was COVID?
No. And then the thing is, in my church, there's doctors. My pastor is a foot doctor. We have surgeons, so I reached out to my friend. And then she immediately was like, listen, you have all the signs for the corona. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, don't play with me. I said, I already got diagnosed. I have bronchitis. I said, you guys are always so negative. Stop. Because in my head, I have to be exposed and no one around. Like I wasn't thinking about who was exposed and who's positive, Mm-hmm. So she's telling me, I'm telling you, call the hotline. So as soon as she told me that, I said, I'm not going to bother. I ended up going to my primary care doctor. Mm-hmm. And when I saw my primary care doctor, I told her, I said, as soon as she saw me, she was like, if you have any of these symptoms, don't even bother coming here.
Wow.
So I told her, I said, I went to the urgent care and they gave me a Z-Pack, and 5 days the Z-Pack, right? I'm like, and my fever hasn't broke. It's 102, 102, 101, 102. I've been literally in bed every day since. And I would get up to take a shower, go back to bed. I wasn't eating. I couldn't hold anything down. I would take a few bites and that was it. So then when I went to her, she goes, well, the thing is, I think only the first few cases were actually diagnosed. She was like, in order for you to get this, you have to be exposed to it. You just don't randomly get it in the air. She was like, you have to be in contact with somebody or touch something, and then touch your face or your eyes or, some part of your face where it gets into your system. So she goes, just, I'll give you another Z-Pack or just wait it out. She's like, wait it out. And just what you do, she told me, she said every 4 hours, pop a Tylenol. Mm. Every 4 hours, pop a Tylenol, no matter what. Yeah. Whether you have a fever or not, just keep taking it. Because if then the fever wants to come back, it's already in your system and you'll fight it back. And she sent me home. So I still didn't know. I was trying to go back to work because it was weird. Some days, like day 1, day 2, I'll have 2 days out of the week where I'm like, I'm mobile. I'm like, okay, I think I can do this. Okay. And then the next day it'll come right back. It was like not going away. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
And all this time, during this time, early March, they didn't have tests like that, right?
No. And they were only testing if you had been in contact, but like had a positive, like you have to say this person was diagnosed with corona and I was exposed. I was with her and exposed to it. Other than that, they weren't just giving the test to give it. Oh, okay. So after I went to my doctor and I finished the Z-Pack, and I'm like, I told Angel, I said, something's not right. Like I said, I've had the flu before. This is not it.
Yeah.
I'm like, my body was aching. I'm like, something's definitely off. My son would see me, and if I walk to the bathroom or walk downstairs to get something to drink and walk back up, I was out of breath. So Isaiah's like, Ma, they say these are the signs. So what I did is I called urgent care back, and I said, listen, I have been exposed. I had to lie.
Yeah.
I said, I have been exposed, because no one's saying that they have it, So I'm like, I have been exposed, and this is what's going on. My fever was 102. I'm talking about from morning till night.
Wow.
So the doctor says, come in. So when he tells me to come in, you can't go wait in the facility. I had to wait in the car.
Mm-hmm.
So I call them, check in, and then I waited in the car for hours. I would say a good 4 to 5 hours in the car. And then they told me, come in through the back door. What? So yeah, so I go in through the back door. They put me in a room. She comes with the face gear, all the PPE and gear, all that. She starts asking me questions. She's checking my oxygen level. She's like, well, you're still good on oxygen. What we could do is give you another Z-Pack, give you another inhaler and stuff like that. And she goes, let me take the test. So it's like a long cotton swab. They put it all the way up your nose, on each nostril. Mm-hmm. She's like, take a deep breath, hold in. And as you're like taking a deep breath, you're like, because it's uncomfortable. It's like, it's bad. It's really bad. So then she says, it's going to take 3 to 5 days for us to get the results. As of now, just presume you do have it, and just stay away from everyone until we get the results back. She goes, if you're with your husband, sleep in another room, or have him sleep in another room. Make sure you disinfect everything. And she was like, just wait until you get the results. And about 5 days later, they called me and told me I was positive.
Wow. Now, retracting just a little bit, when you found out that your coworker was sick, how long from when you knew she was sick did you start feel
with the symptoms? About a week.
Wow.
That's about a week.
And does your coworker work with you in the same office?
We're in the same office, but we're not close. We're not close at all. So she's probably, I would say, 3 desks behind me.
Okay.
Probably about 10 feet or something. We're not close at all. Wow. But we share the same bathroom.
Okay.
Yeah, we share the same bathroom.
So talking about the symptoms, I heard about that you can't, there's you lose your sense of smell,
taste.
Go through that as well.
Yes, that's why I couldn't eat. Everything tastes so bad. Everything. I would take them. I'm like, oh my goodness. I thought it was the inhaler. So then I would not take the inhaler, and I still couldn't eat. I couldn't eat at all.
And
it was bad.
How long was the whole process of your suffering, your sickness?
5 weeks.
5 weeks.
Yeah, it was bad. I wouldn't. Yeah, honey, it was bad. It was bad. And some days would be good, and some days were it was bad. It was really bad.
So you didn't work for 5 weeks?
Nope. Didn't work for 5 weeks. And because Isaiah is my assistant and he lives in my household, he wasn't allowed to work for 5 weeks.
Oh my goodness. Now, I'm blown away. Mm-hmm. So when you found out about that you had COVID, so what were some things that you had to implement to keep, yourself and Isaiah and Angel, what did you have to do at that point?
Well, by this point, I found out I was positive about 2 weeks already in.
Okay.
Right. So I was 2 weeks in when I found out I was positive. But prior to that, I was I couldn't walk. I was just tired all the time. So I pretty much confined myself to my bedroom.
Okay.
So it would be my bedroom, bathroom. I would go down maybe for a glass of water, if that, but I didn't even change the sheets to my bed. I didn't have the energy to do anything. Wow. Anything. Angel had to do everything for me. Wow. And I would literally get up, take a shower, and come back. That was really my day. If I had one meal a day, that was more than enough for me.
Wow. Did Angel and Isaiah get sick?
They did. They actually experienced fever, and some like throat pain, but just for like 72 hours, 48 hours, like that. I think then Isaiah's girlfriend also stays with us, and hers was probably about 3 days.
Okay.
But it was just fever, but nothing, because he would look at me and he'd be like, this is crazy. He's like, I don't understand this. Because he felt the fever, and you're gonna feel your body weak. That's the first thing you get. You feel so weak that you just like tired, and you just like, I need to rest. And he felt it for like 1 or 2 days at most, but then he was okay.
Wow. That's crazy. So how were you able to cope, like mentally? Like, what was going through your mind, emotionally, spiritually, after all of this? Because, you had testified, about what God has done in 2019. You know what I mean? We're going into 2020, and we're going in with this new mindset, and we're just, starting this brand new decade. And then you get hit with COVID. And, what did that do for you mentally, emotionally, and spiritually?
Well, in the first 2 weeks, I was like, it has to, be, it's not the coronavirus, because we didn't really know too much about it. Not too many people were testing positive. So I really didn't think it was that. But then I'm like, let me just relax a little. So mentally, I was still okay. I wasn't stressed out about it. What got me really worried was when I had consecutive days of fever, and I was constantly freezing, and I would sweat the fever, then get the fever right back. Like, it was nonstop. So I was taking pills. I was taking ibuprofen, and I called my doctor. I said, listen, I'm taking the ibuprofen. It's not breaking my fever. It would not do anything to my fever at all, at all. And then she tells me, stop that, take Tylenol. Because when my primary told me, oh, take Tylenol, I'm thinking Tylenol, Advil, all the same thing. Motrin, it's all the same thing. I'm going to take that. So that's what I was taking. I was taking Motrin. So then she tells me, what exactly are you taking? And I told her, I said, I'm taking Motrin, the prescribed Motrin, no less. And it was 800 milligrams. I'm like, it's not doing anything. She goes, no. She goes, a new study just came out. She's like, listen, as we find out this information, we relate the information. So a new study came out that the ibuprofen doesn't do anything. If anything, it can make matters worse or something like that. And she told me to take Tylenol. So I started taking that, and it helped, but it wouldn't remove it completely. It'll break it for a few minutes, and then it's back up again. And then at night was the worst. So at night is basically where I would sit there, and I didn't have time to read the word, anything. I would just sit there and just say, God, I'm like, something's not right. Like, something, I'm like, God, I know you'll take care of this. I know you'll take care of this. Something's not right. I know you'll take care of it. And he tells me, but I feel it in my spirit, you're going to be okay. That's what I was feeling. I'm like, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And I didn't go to, what's crazy? Tuesday I was sick. I have service Wednesday and Sunday. And as soon as I got sick that Tuesday, Wednesday, I said, you know what, let me just stay home, because I really had no energy to do anything. And I thank God for that. Wednesday I didn't go, Sunday I didn't go. So now I'm missing church 5 weeks straight. And when I went there and I sat there, and I'm like, I said, something's wrong. Like, you're going to feel like this is not, they say flu symptoms. It is not flu symptoms. You can start with a cold, but once you can't breathe, that's not a flu. Like, once you start coughing, and to the point where I really felt out of breath, like I had to stop everything. And I'm like, and it was really scary for me. It was really, really scary for me. Very scary. I would sit there, and I'm like, oh God, I'm like, just, and I would just sit there and pray, God, just take this away. Just take it away. Just take it away.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine, because I've heard other interviews and very similar, but like, the greatest thing about, and it's kind of weird for me to say this, but, all the people that don't have God and were suffering, and you have God, so were you able to like just remain in your hope that God was going to heal you during that time?
In the beginning, I had this, because they told me it was bronchitis. So the first 2 weeks, I really didn't know I was positive with the COVID. So in the beginning, I was just like, God, I didn't think, because I'm like, it's just bronchitis. It's going to go away. So I didn't think to be like, God, heal me from the head, from the top of my head to the soul. I was like, this will pass. This too will pass.
Mm-hmm.
So I say, God, just give me the energy. I will wake up, God, that today may be a good day. I will wake up. And then I had some days where I would wake up and I'll be okay. So it wasn't as scary.
Mm-hmm.
But then as time progressed is when I got worse. Yeah. And that I started reaching out to my pastor for prayer, and started reaching out to my friends, like, keep me in prayer. I can't break this fever. I don't know what's going on. So it was scary nonetheless. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Now, did you have to go to the hospital at any point, or you just went to urgent care?
I just went to urgent care. I went to urgent care about definitely 2 times. Then I had to go back to retest. But then I didn't do the hospital because they tell you, unless you have breathing problems where you know that you need to go, unless they'll tell you that, because apparently if you go to the hospital, it's worse.
Yeah.
So when I would call my doctor, that I made phone calls almost every other day. My symptoms haven't changed. Is this normal? Because it's scary. It's really scary. It's really scary.
Wow.
But thank God I didn't go.
Yeah. And what was like the scariest moment for you? Was it when?
I remember this. Oh my gosh. It's so crazy. It was so crazy. And this is, it was only Jesus, I tell you. So Tuesday and Wednesday, Tuesday, my fever went up to 103.7. Wow. And I was tossing and turning. I basically just cried. Because I'm like, I felt like I was going to die. Like, that's what I felt. And that I got up Tuesday. And I have the holy oil in my house. So I took that and I smeared it all over. Now I'm like, this is not bronchitis. This is. So I smeared it all over myself, and I just started praying. I'm like, God. I'm pleading the blood of Jesus. I'm like, God, I said, I'm not going this way. You didn't. I told him, I said, you didn't call me to die like this. I know that. And I just kept praying and praying and praying. That was Tuesday. And then Wednesday, it was so bad. And then Wednesday, I woke up just like in sweat, because the fever, I sweated. Like it was bad. It was disgusting. And I took a shower, and then I go back to bed. And because if I wasn't eating, I was sleeping. Mm. So now I'm just laying there. And my mom is calling me. Everyone's calling me. How are you doing? I'm not answering the phone, because if I spoke, I would cough, lose my breath, and that was it. Mm. My boss will call me once a week. And just this few minutes that I spoke to him, I would start coughing and lose my breath. And he's like, oh my gosh, all right, forget it. He'll hang up. I didn't have energy to text people. Like no one, the only one who knew what I was going through was my husband and my son. Yeah. So, my mom left me a message. I'm calling you, I just want to make sure you're okay. Can you just reach out, So then she'll call Angel, and he's like, I don't know. She just has a fever. The fever won't go away. So she's now nervous. Yeah. And then Wednesday, my church went live stream, having their service. And she basically says, whoever's in the church, just reach out your hands, whoever needs prayer. And I'm in bed, laying down, watching the service with my hands raised up. And I'm sitting there just praying and praying and praying and praying. And while I'm doing this, while my fever is now 103.8 is my fever. And I'm praying and I'm praying and I'm praying. And miraculously, and by the morning, my fever was gone. And I never had a fever that bad ever again. Wow. I think the next one was probably like 102. But when you have 103.8, 103.7, I sat there, and then my breathing was horrible. And I'm sitting there with the asthma pump. And I'm crying, and I'm sitting there, and I call. And now on Thursday, I wake up, I'm feeling a lot better now, So I finally reached out to my mom. My mom tells me, something happened. She goes, I was praying, and something told me to call your aunts. She called Rosa and Anita. Mm-hmm. And they started praying over me that day, and she knew nothing about it. She knew nothing about it. She said that day they started she said, clamando por ti, just praying over me. And I didn't say anything to her as to what I was going through because she was already crying hysterical.
Wow.
Yeah, she was like, I don't know, I'm over here. I can't do anything over there. What can I do? I can't travel. And she's like, I had to call Rosa and I had to call Anita because it's something in my stomach. And so I don't know, I couldn't shake it. So all I kept thinking about was to pray for you. And I told her, I said, Ma, don't worry, I'm okay. I'm getting better. And from that day, I never had a fever like that again. Never had a fever. And I actually ended up, when I like 4 weeks into it, when I'm feeling a lot better and the fever has ceased, I called my mom and I said, Ma, this is what happened. This is what I was going through. When you called me the only other person who knew about that was my sister, because I told her prior. And she's like, I knew something was wrong. And I told her, I said, no, but God is good, man. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy at all. It's completely different. It's scary. A lot of people are asymptomatic, but for those, with old, and then my thing is they say, oh, if you're young and healthy, I don't suffer from diabetes. I don't suffer from high blood pressure, and I'm not as old as they're saying that it affects, 50 and over, I think, or 60 and over. I'm not even too sure, but it's definitely very scary. I wouldn't ever. I told Angel as soon as, because now I'm trying to get tested for the antibodies and stuff like that. I'm like, because if they have a vaccine or something, I'm like, you guys are definitely going to get it. Like, I don't want anyone that I love to go through this or, anything like that. It's just crazy. It's scary. Wow. Very scary.
Now, how has, this experience changed your life from that point on?
Oh, I'm so cautious right now.
Yeah.
As soon as I get to my office, I disinfect everything. I have my mask, I have my gloves. I didn't realize how much I touched my face, and now I do. Like, I sit there, I'm like, oh my, I pick on my face all the time. I'm like, oh my goodness, oh no. So I'm very cautious right now.
Okay. And you're back at work and everybody's fine now?
Everyone's fine. Thank God, back at work. I feel a lot better. So I wanted to go back to work like the 4th weekend because I was feeling a lot better, but the fever had stopped. So, which is great. The fever stopped, but apparently I had to wait 3 days, 72 hours after my last cough. And that's without medication, nothing. Like, I couldn't cough. And that's what took another week. It took a bit longer.
So my final question to you was, what message would you like to share, with our listeners about your experience?
Honestly, I would say take it seriously. Mm-hmm. Not everyone's the same. Some people, a lot of people they don't care. Oh, well, I'm young, I'm this. I feel like it's too new of a virus and different strains are coming out and you don't know. It affected me that way, but it didn't affect my husband that way. Mm-hmm. And if you love your family and if you're more conscious of your surroundings and just be mindful of the people around you, just because you can take care of it and you dealt with it differently doesn't mean someone else can. Mm-hmm. I had my cousin's husband who passed away. Oh. He passed away from COVID. Wow. From COVID, he passed away, and Angel, my husband, his best friend's mother passed away. Wow. So it's to me is I don't feel like everyone takes it seriously. Mm-hmm. I feel like we're all dying to get back to normal, get back to the way it used to be. We're just like, let's just go out there. But if we're gonna do that, then I would say wear the mask, wear the gloves. Just be very cautious, especially with kids, anyone around you. Just because one person takes it, it's nothing, they feel like that's it, they're inferior to it. So no, just be respectful and just take care of yourself, really.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we did it.
We did it.
Yay. Thank you, Mama, so much.
Thank you guys for asking.
Well, there you have it. Mama, thank you so much for joining me at the table today. We are so grateful to God for your healing and restoration. We love you so much, and we will see you soon. And thank you all for tuning into Benevolence, where kindness matters and all are welcome to the table. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at Benevolence Podcast or at my personal IG account at I am Ceci Diaz to know a little bit more about me and Benevolence. Benevolence Podcast is available on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeart, and the Stitcher app. Stay tuned for our new Benevolent Wednesday feature where different women share their story of what God has done in their life. And finally, stay tuned for next Monday's episode of Benevolence. You don't want to miss it. Bye!